episode of Streets of Success with Frank, Tony, Jalil, and we got a special guest, Jack Gorham here. Jack, how you feeling?
Feeling good. Thanks for having me on today, guys. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah.
So typically we just do in the beginning we do like a brief of how you grew up, siblings, schooling, stuff like that, right before you hit your teenage years. So how was it like, where you from? How was it like growing up for you?
I grew up in the Port Richmond section of Philadelphia. Port Richmond is a nice little town that we have together. And a big community out there. But growing up, grew up Catholic at one of the 5 churches in Port Richmond. Nice historical background there. Had tons of friends. Playgrounds are always beefing with each other. You know that.
Yeah.
A&W Stokely, shout out. But I went to North Catholic. Last class at North Catholic, 2010. Super proud to have that on my resume. So that's a big alumni group.
Yeah.
I got a little sister, Brianna. She's a sweetheart. Love her to death. She keeps me going. So it's been cool to have her around. Just me and her doing our thing. Other than that, it's going to school at North. Used to take the 60 down to K&A, hop on the L at K&A, take that up 2 stops at Erie Tarsdale, jump off, be going to school up there.
How was it with your mom and dad? They were both active in your life. Like your parents were both together and a happy home.
Yeah, happy home. I mean, every home has its own problems. I don't want to take a stab at my parents by any means. It wasn't always picture perfect. But for the most part, they definitely raised me well. Kudos to them. They're a big part of who I am today. Their dedication and their sacrifice in life has definitely turned me into the entrepreneur that I am today. Got some vivid emotional memories of some of the sacrifices and how my father never missed a day of work and my sports schedule as a kid, and then he, working 3rd shift, my mom making extra money here and there, going back to school. And I knew that I had to, one day play my part. So I couldn't let that shit go to waste. I wasn't going to be a bum. I wasn't going to, turn to drugs. I wasn't, I saw that path. I knew people who took that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So you're saying you grew up in Port Richmond, which at the time you're growing up, a lot of people turn to drugs, partying, start getting into pills, and even people from North, any school really, that was heavily around at that time. You were in high school. How did you stay away from it? Did you get involved in it at all? What things were you in high school?
I mean, we were partying. We partied pretty hard. I have a fear now in my life. I'm a parent now. I got 2 little ones at home, a son and a daughter. But I had a family member who went the wrong way, and he's close enough in age to me to where he's a little bit older. He was a cousin of mine, but we were a tight-knit family, always over each other's houses. He grew up a little bit more in the Kensington section on Whitehall, if you're familiar with Whitehall Street. He went the wrong way, and I didn't like his behaviors. I didn't like the way that he came around, kind of the favors that he was asking for, always needed something, always asking for the handout. I got to see it firsthand, you know what I mean?
Well, when you say you was partying, was it like getting wasted party, or was it like a Diddy type of party?
No Diddy. Cut that. Diddy was not at our party.
He cannot help himself.
No, yeah. So I mean, drugs were involved. I never got involved with a needle or anything like that. But we're doing our thing. We're being young and dumb. I just always knew my limits. You know what I mean? I always knew all right, pump the brakes on this, because I know myself. That's the most important thing. I got an obsessive personality. As soon as I like something, I'm getting it. I like it that much, I'm gonna get all of it. I'm never gonna stop it. So. I always knew, I was fearful of that for some reason. Something's always, I got good grandparents, too.
Okay.
My grandparents wouldn't respect me if I went down that path, and I was fearful of them. So
It's a smart. You have good insight though, because a lot of people, unfortunately, they go down that road and they don't have that insight and that self-awareness. Like you
Yeah,
have
that's
that,
all
which
it
is
is.
really
Self-awareness.
good. Yeah.
That's what it is. It really is, and it's helped me a lot throughout life, as far as like anxieties, depressions, emotions, drugs, habits, gambling. You know what I mean? Like there's other vices and other avenues that you can go down. It's not always about drugs.
I feel like that's what's wrong with like the world now. Like the younger generation, there's no self-awareness. Like you can go to a basketball game dressed this way. Like it's no, look in the mirror before you go. Like they're just, and I feel like the self-respect's gone, and it's just way different now.
Well, most of them have ski masks and hoodies on, so they can't see their face in the mirror anyway.
True, yeah.
That's probably because
Seriously.
they don't want to face it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're probably covering themselves up. They don't want to face that shit. Well, I'm gonna just put this mask on and feel this way.
Yeah.
96 degrees.
Yeah.
Right.
It's-
So Jack, coming up to your like high school years, was there like anything that you could like that stood out to you as far as like negative that you like latched onto, or that you saw that really like changed you, or set you on a path of any type of way?
Like
Or
more
had
so
to
like,
overcome.
or like being like the entrepreneur that you are. Like where did that light bulb go off? Where did that light bulb go off to become an entrepreneur? Or did it?
I mean, it did. It definitely did. I kind of touched on it a little bit. Like I remember one night, I can't remember like the date or whatever. I was 14 though. I was 14 and I have night terrors, trying to sleep because we didn't have money. Like I'm the oldest sibling. Like my little sister, she's only 3 years younger than me, so she's like 11 at the time. But we're kids. But I'm coming up. You know what I mean? Like I'm coming. I'm seeing, starting to take notice of what my parents' habits are, and oh, you did this, or we can't buy this, or this and that. And I would have night terrors like, damn, like I got a whole life to live, and I gotta be a slave to this shit. Like I gotta wake up. I got somebody else to tell me what to do. This, that, the third. My father lost his job one day. He was a printer for like the Nation, doing like school books. They printed. It was called Lehigh Press. They were based out of New Jersey. They printed like 70% of the nation's school books. He worked there for 25 years throughout his high school at North Catholic. He went there. He put a lot of work into them, dedicated his career and his whole life and skill set to them. Walked into work one day and they were like, "Yo, you're fired. Like we're all moving to Mexico, whole plant. No, everybody's fired." So my dad's like, "What do I do now? I'm fucking 50 years old. I've only ever printed." And I'm talking about like newspapers and shit, right? And like now you tie in technology. Anybody pay for the newspaper? Right? It's a dying
Right, dying
industry.
breed, yeah.
So he's like, I'm shit out of luck. I don't know what to do. Blah blah. So times are tough a little bit, as a kid. And I started, noticing this, and I'm like, all right, I got it. I'm part of the family. Like, let me put this shit on my back, figure this out. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And my dad never missed a day off of work. He just made it happen. So I knew there was one night when I was 14, I couldn't sleep. It was probably like 3, 4, 5 in the morning or something. I gotta make this shit happen. I gotta make it happen. I have to make it happen. I have to make it worth it. None of this means anything if it ain't worth it, right? If you're not having fun, if you're not making an impact, if it's just not. It's not a worth life. It's not a life worth living to me. If I don't make it happen. So my back was against the wall and I had to do something. So I went to work. I found a way. I started that entrepreneurial mindset, the positivity. That all right, how can I capitalize?
What was one of the first ventures that you pursued?
What's an entry point? All right, you know what I mean. Like I don't know where to start. And you'll see landscaping companies. That's easy access, right? You grab a $100 mower, go cut some lawn. You know what I mean? Something like that. So I started painting. Actually, Frank, you don't know about this.
Nah, I would have hired you.
So this is what I did, right? So my mom worked at a bank. I'm not going to throw the bank's name out there on the internet. Going to get in trouble here, but I would pay my friends to go graffiti on the bank. They would go graffiti on the bank, and then the bank would be like, "Hey, Jack, can you go paint the bank?" Because it has graffiti on it. And I was like, "Of course I can go paint the bank." Boom. Here's $50. I threw my boy 20, got a $30 come up. Took me an hour's worth of work. Now I'm making $30 an hour. I would do that shit bi-weekly.
Every place in Port Richmond had spray paint on the front of the bars and everything.
So
Thanks to
yeah,
Jack.
I was doing shit like that. The snow came, I was shoveling, you know.
Hustles.
Yeah, just any which way to make some money. And then you know, I got a few dollars in my pocket. Big sports fan, been in Philadelphia. We all love that shit. I'm creative, like we were just speaking about, Jaleel. And I started a t-shirt company, my first t-shirt venture, and I would
At
go
what
down.
age? What age?
About 14, 15.
Still there?
Yeah,
Wow.
right there. Yeah, I mean, this shit snowballed real quick. I'm getting after it. Never stopped. I used to like sports autographs. Now they're worth money too. Some people, you know, flip them or whatever. But I'm a collector. Like I grab something, I keep it. I'm not a seller of anything. So I used to collect sports autographs. I would go down to Phillies and wait for them to, you know, get done the game, go out of their car, and you know, be like, hey, can I get your autograph? I chase them down and all that kind of jazz. So what I started doing was I incorporated that. I was going to be down there anyway, so I started bringing some merchandise with me. I created some merchandise. I would take that down there in a backpack. I would sell my T-shirts. People were like, oh, you know, I'm sorry, nah, I can't do it. I don't have any. I don't have cash on me. I only got card. Well, then that's when the iPad came out. Like right around that time, like that technology is kind of booming. I don't know if you remember, they had a Square. Remember
Yeah.
Square? I went and got myself a Square. I was like, I don't need cash. Here's your shit. Like, just give me the credit card. We'll swipe it right through. So I started pushing that kind of stuff. Had my own website, free website through Big Cartel. Got some internet action and, you know, took it from there. 215Ts ended up dying. I went into a different career path, you know, later on down the life, but it's definitely helped out.
He was only 16 at that point.
Yeah.
So-
That's
Well,
what
no,
was about
I
to
mean,
say.
and it's like, well, that comes full circle because, you know, we flash forward almost, you know, a decade. You look back on my Facebook memories and shit, you see me, you know, selling T-shirts and stuff like that. Now we do own a brand new state-of-the-art printing company called Studio 1123. So that makes things a lot easier. And I love that I get to have my background from, you know, 10, 12 years ago.
Right.
I already know the information. I just put it in my memory, right? Like I just put it in the back of my mind for a little bit, and I just get to bring it to light whenever I would like to. So, you know, it's all about exposure. It's all about experience. I tried it. I failed. I tried it again. You know, I learned something, and we're going to continue trying because now we're successful.
So what point in time did you like get out of your parents' house and start doing your own thing?
So by the time I got out of my parents' house, I was like 22, 23. Okay. I went to school during that time, that gap in age right there. I went from North Catholic to, I got wind. I was working in Kensington. I was working at a metal polishing and plating company. So like we would like prep metal and like clean it and then like repolish it and put different metals on top of it. So I got to learn a little bit about like chemicals and stuff. And a dentist, he would come in, and he had these funky looking tools. Like I was like, what the fuck are these? Like I never saw tools like this. I was like, who are you? You know, he was a friend of the guy who owned it. It was Abbott's Plating. And he's like, I'm a dentist. He was like, these are like picks and, you know, dental surgical tools. And he was like, yo, kid, like, how old are you? And I was like, you know, I'm like 17 at this point or whatever. I used to work at Modell's. Side note, I used to work at Modell's too. This was after Modell's. I worked at Modell's throughout high school. Then I went to this place, and he was like, he's like, you don't want to be here forever. He's like, you're in a bad spot. You ain't going to make this. This is kind of like a laboring job. He was like, I'll be back here in about 2 weeks. I got a book for you. I'm like, all right. So he comes back in like 2 weeks, and he hands me a book on sterilization. I'm like, what is this? All right, it's a big, looks like this big industrial like cooker, pressure cooker or something. I'm like, what is this? He's like, just read the book. He was like, you can get into like sterilization, which is like, it'll put you in like a hospital setting or like a dental setting, and you're basically just cleaning and discontaminating the instruments to be reused for the next patient. I'm like, hold up, you reuse the instruments? Like I thought everything was like disposable. He's like, nah. He was like, if everything was disposable, it'd be costing crazy money. So I read the book. I took a class. The class was like 6 months. It was like $500. I paid for that shit by myself. And then I started applying to hospitals, and shout out to St. Christopher's Children's Hospital got me in. So then I started cooking the instruments down there, and I learned. I worked there for 2 years. I was making good money. I was making like $19 an hour at like 18 years old, and I was living at home. You know what I mean? So like, this, you know, I was trying to make that work. You know, stack up a little bit of money, make a pile.
So Jack, I got a question real quick.
Yeah.
Was the medical field something you ever thought you were going to be interested in doing, or was it the guy that brought you that book that really like where a light bulb went off? Like, yeah, I can make a living off of this.
Kind of both, because what I like to be for myself is I like to be open. I was open to it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like I didn't shut that down. Like, you know, like I kind of still have an interest in welding. Now I haven't like pursued it. I've done it a few times. I haven't like gone after it, but like I'm not against, you know, putting some time into it. So what happened was it's like the path of least resistance. So I was open to doing it. Shit started lining up, making some good money. I'm like, all right, I could put in two years of this and see where this goes. And that's exactly what I did. Now I know the tools. Like everybody knows what a hammer is, right? If I say, hand me the hammer, you can go get the hammer. If I say, hand me the wrench, you can go get the wrench, right? So that's all these surgical instruments. They all have names: Mayo scissors, Cryo, Kelly, Mosquito. You know, they all got names to them. So I learned all this. And one day, I delivered the instruments upstairs to the operating room, and then the people in the operating room, they were like, "Hey, like, you want to see this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I like to learn. Let me see what this is about up here." So I stayed in there for an operation, and I was so taken back. This was the craziest day of my life.
What'd you say?
So it's nothing now. Like looking back at it, it's nothing now. I swear to God, I didn't speak. They would speak to me, and I would just nod my head, yes or no. Like, are you good? Like, everything's all right. I didn't talk. Like, they were bullshitting like we're bullshitting here.
What kind of surgery were they performing?
So I saw 2 surgeries that day. One was a broken radius where they made an incision here, and they took a wire, an actual wire, and then they took a mallet, a hammer, and they just started hammering it. They started hammering it. This kid's arm. I don't remember the kid. I don't remember his age or nothing. He's probably like 9. Start hammering it, and then they're like, X-ray. They take an X-ray, and it moved an inch. They're like, oh, we gotta get it to the fracture.
Damn.
They start hammering it again. They get it up to the fracture line, and then they're like, all right, now you squeeze it, you compress it, because we want to line up the fracture. So then they line up the fracture. They take an X-ray. It looks good. They start hammering it through again, and then now the fracture's fixed. The wire's through. They make another incision. You know what I mean? They fix it. And I'm like, this is wild. I'm like, this is a kid. This is human.
When was the next time you were able to eat after that?
I remember being like so excited that day that I got home, and I knew that day I was like, I'm working in the operating room. I was like, that was the coolest thing, because what I didn't get to say about my father is my father has kind of like a little crazy of a medical story as well. So that kind of had like a little thing in the back of my mind. He grew up without a hip. They used to call him Skippy because his legs were off. Yeah, nah, it's all good. It's all good. His legs were off, and he grew up without a hip. At like 3 months old, the doctor actually opted to take it out. He had pneumonia as a baby, and it infected his hip. They took out his hip, and he was 33 years old when he got a fake hip. So now I saw this, and I'm thinking about my dad, because I know my dad's pain that he went through after his fake hip. He couldn't feel his leg or anything like that. He had some complications. It was really tough for my dad. He still never missed a day of work. You know what I mean? Like, he still took me to wrestle, and he still took me to baseball. Like, I still was everywhere I needed to be as a kid. And I know it was tough on him, but I was like, damn, so they did that shit to that kid. Like, what did they do to my dad? And I was like, I gotta find this shit out. So I started, YouTube's coming about. I'm looking this shit up. I start getting interested in it. I'll go out and I find a school. I'm like, all right, what is the cheapest way that I can get myself into an operating room? And basically, I found a program for surgical technology. So this program, it was a year's worth of school. It was a cheap tuition, and you get to assist in surgeries now.
So you're basically called a surgical technician.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, surgical technologist.
Okay.
So you're right next to the doctors.
Hand in hand. Yeah, we work, just as we're right here.
If there was any point that you would have to step in? Do you think you could take over some part of the procedure at all?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we have to do that. It's just the
Like,
part of the job.
Like, hey, hold
Like,
this real quick while I go run over and get this and
Yeah,
push this.
it's really not even hold this real quick. It's a hey, hold this shit for an hour. If you let go, it's gonna bleed. You know what I mean? I'm digging here. You gotta give me some exposure. And I mean, there's so much anatomy and physiology with the human body. It's like different parts of the body require different types of instruments. You know, different names and stuff like that. So, you know, if you're doing like a laparotomy, which is like an open belly case, you got to hold the belly open, right? Like it doesn't just stay
Hold up.
stay open.
Right.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, my dad got the
one
same
of them.
thing.
Yeah. So
The
what
zipper.
happened with you was what happened?
I had a colostomy bag and I had to get the reverse colostomy.
Yeah. So I did that shit tons of times. Yeah. You were split wide open. We got retractors in there. We started holding them up with our hands. We pulled your
He's
shit
saying it
out.
like it's nothing.
Yeah, we're looking at it. We're seeing what's wrong with it. All right, this is the disease portion. You know, cancers and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
And we'll resect it. We'll stitch it back up, put everything back in place, make sure
And
you're all good.
you love that shit, huh? You fell in love with it?
I loved it because it was so it never stopped. And the education never stops. You know, I ask questions left and right. I ask more questions than a student does. You know,
Still to this day, so you're learning every
I
day
learned
still?
everything. Yeah, because your technique is different than his technique, and your technique is different than Frank's technique. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has their own way of doing things and their own theories on things. So it's like, if I can get the information from you, then what's yours like? And the way I looked at it was like, who's the smartest person? When you think who's the smartest people in the world, who you think of?
Bill, Frank.
A smart, like, scientist, probably?
Like
Do you
still
think scientists
living?
are smart? I mean, yeah, they're up there in the
think
category.
doctors,
But
you
I think a doctor. I
Yeah,
think a
most
doctor's
people would
smart.
say doctor.
So you're gonna pay me for 40 hours a week. You're gonna pay me to stand next to one of the smartest people that we look up to. I'm gonna absorb something. I'm gonna learn something. You know what I mean? Like, and I can get a free education out of this. You could pay me to learn. I'm with it.
Frankie
So how
wanted to
does-
know, can he get a free surgery out of this?
An idiot. What so but you're learning all this stuff. I mean, I guess it could be leverage for another job.
Yeah.
But like would you plan on like pursuing your own like hospital or your own doctor's office to do surgeries or your own private? Like you're getting all this knowledge when it comes down to like the human body and all this other stuff, how to fix stuff. But like at the end game, like you got all this knowledge for what?
Can you
Yeah.
even do your own practices though? Like there's
No,
different
so
licenses.
I could be a private scrub for a physician, like, and then we could go into our own private practice together. That's plastic surgery. Plastic surgery.
There you
is really
go,
hot.
Frankie.
Yeah, plastic surgery is
crazy.
pretty hot with that. You know, the clientele. That's an elective surgery, most likely.
Right.
Non-elective plastic surgery is like a cancer reconstruction. You know, if you had cancer,
Like a jaw
Yeah,
or-
we want to.
How about
make
how
that
about
replacement.
lipo?
Well, that's
Butt-
that's an
butt
elective.
removal.
Yeah, that's elective. So what happens now is I work with a plastic surgeon now at a surgical center, and that's exactly what he does. He's one of the best plastic surgeons in the area. Hats off to him. He does incredible work. Probably the best plastic surgeon that I've come across. Yeah, Dr. Michael Shaffrin.
So how long you been doing the surgeries for? How long you been involved in the medical field?
All in all, almost a decade now. Probably about like 12 years doing everything between sterilization and surgery. I just worked in sterilization for 2 years, and then I moved right up. As soon as I learned those instruments, because what happens is like I said, like if you say, give me the red cup, I know what the red cup is. You know what I mean? So like a monkey can do that. But what happens next, where I took it to the next step is that I asked those questions, and I wanted to anticipate your needs. So like after you make an incision, right, like what's going to happen? I got to be ready. So like after you make an incision, I'm probably going to give you like a rag because it's going to bleed. And then I'm going to give you like a hot pencil because it's going to bleed and we want to zap it. And then like now.
Like a real hot pencil?
It's called a bovie.
Oh,
It's called a bovie. But that's what it is. It's a
lead-
it looks like a
lead-based
pencil, and
pencil.
you're gonna zap a blood vessel, and you'll just zzz, you know what I mean, and it's cauterization.
What's the most craziest plastic surgery you ever did?
cutting up the fatties.
Dang.
Yeah, people
like big back girls and stuff like that.
People, I'm not with it. It's not my favorite. Hey, people pay for it. People like it. People are with it.
How much are they
green.
how much are they paying for them surgeries?
I mean, everybody's different, you know. That's why you're going to Mexico. You know, people don't want to pay for it, and then you're gonna get all fucked up.
What's the? I'm confused. What's the cutting the? What is it?
Just like a tummy tuck.
Oh,
Or BBL?
Okay.
Yeah,
BBL Jalil?
No, do you got like hair reduction, Jones? To make your hair
I've never done them, but they're out there. Those are definitely out there. Yeah.
Oh,
To
snap.
reduce his head?
What do you mean
Like-
reduce his head?
He got a noggin. He's trying to
He's trying to slim it down.
Yeah.
got a Georgia Dome.
We can
Lincoln
tighten
Financial
it. We
Field.
can tighten it.
No.
So how do you end up going from from the working field in the medical field to the entrepreneurial stretch of your life?
gonna
How
ask
does
that.
that sort of?
So, all right. So now I'm excited, and you guys get me excited talking about
Whoa,
operations.
don't get too calm down.
You guys get, no, I like learning, and that's what surgery was. Where I learned a ton of different procedures, a ton of different medical terms, and this shit's crazy. It never ends. The hospital does not sleep. It never ends. So, you're contracted. If you're working at a hospital, if you're working at a trauma hospital, oh my God, we're here in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. They're going to Temple.
I know
left and
Temple
right.
was crazy.
They're going to Temple left and right. Now, I didn't work at Temple, Maine, so to say, but like it's always something coming in, and even if it's not a trauma, it's an urgency. So like if something appendectomy. Everybody has their appendix here.
Oh yeah,
I have
yes.
mine. Yeah.
You have it, or you had to take it out.
I have mine
All
still.
right. Your stomach be hurting. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, this hurts, and you'll be like, all right, well then we're gonna have to take it out. You know what I mean? So that's something that it'll rupture, and if it ruptures, then you become septic. If you become septic, you could die. So this is an urgency, right? So like even though it's not a trauma, I'm still on call all the time for the hospital. I gotta go in there. It takes time to set the shit up. It takes time to do the procedure. Complications happen in the procedure. Everybody's anatomy is different. So you get stuck there, and that life is it's rough. It's definitely rough.
Sure.
Hospital life ain't that fun. It takes a special person. So with that being said, I'm like, this shit ain't it. I don't want to do this. I'm missing, I don't want to miss this in my life. I don't want to, if I had kids at this time, I don't want to, be like that. I want to go down the shore. I want to, make memories. I want to have fun. So I start to like get that entrepreneurial itch again. Like what can I do with this? Where can I be? Like you said, now I know all this knowledge. And you look at it as like I had all this knowledge, but to me, I looked at it like, yes, I have the knowledge, but now I have a network. I know high-paying clientele. I know people who want quality. I know people who can, afford a luxury item or something like that. So I'm like, how can I bring value to their life? And I started, I worked at a teaching hospital. These people are moving all across country because they get paired up with schools. They, they're graduating. Graduation has parties. So I would help them out with moving, like all the residents and stuff like that, on the side. Like, oh, you're moving to Ohio because that's where your next program's at. You're doing a 2-year program in Ohio. All right, fine. Like, let's figure out logistics and get you over to Ohio.
So you were helping like move residents.
Yeah,
that was like
I would do something like that.
That was like a side hustle you started.
Exactly. So I would take some time on the weekends, schedule that stuff, move some cargo for them, and they would also be graduating. So that ties into parties, and I'm thinking like, how can I do something with that? And it didn't come full circle, but these ideas started brewing, and you need money to make money. So now I got these ideas. I'm doing other things aside. Like I started like a 3D printing gig. I made some products with that. I tried to invent some stuff. Got in trouble with that a little bit. But other than that, it's like I knew that I wasn't going to stay in the medical field at this point. It's just a matter of what is the path of least resistance, of which is working for me to acquire my time back because I spent a lot of time at the hospital.
Right. You never like thought about doing something that was in the medical field in an entrepreneurial side or like sales or anything like that?
So you can get into sales, you could, but that's like it's a sketchy place to be. I don't
Okay.
really, you know what I mean? It's kind of like
A rat race?
yeah,
Something like
it's
that.
like if you strike gold, you can make something, but you're digging and it's not where I want to be. You're still doing the on call, you're still doing the traumas, right? Like if somebody breaks a hip, I got to go in anyway. So I didn't want that life anymore. You know, it's 2:00 in the morning. Like I don't want to do
what
that.
was your first big not big, but what was your first LLC that like you're like, all right, I can really start making some good money more than my paycheck and step away, not just like a side hustle, but where it's like,
Yeah.
I could turn this into a real business.
So that became Primo. That's Primo Parties. I own a party rental company. We supply tents, tables, chairs, bounce houses, water slides, foam machines, misting fans, heaters. We dabble into like mascots and stuff like that, but other than that, it's like we started doing the party rental, and that's when I was like, the money started coming in. We started pushing it, and I started like asking the doctors. I'm like, yo, how much you pay for school? How much is school? How much are your student loans? This and that. And now I'm like, kind of making the same amount of money as you, and I don't got no student loans. I'm like, my trajectory could be where, you know, could be very, very profitable. So I was like, let me, you know, focus on this. Let me, you know, put all my attention in there. I ended up stepping away from the hospital and pursuing that full time. And you know, Primo's been 4 years now, and we're you know doing excellent. Probably number one in the tri-state area for your party rental needs. So.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah,
It's
thank you.
awesome, especially at the young age of 32 years old to have all that.
Yeah. Well, you know, so at this point, I had 2 kids.
I was just going to ask that too.
I had 2 kids, and you know, if you have kids, you know the immense amount of pressure that is on your shoulders. I got to make this shit work. I got to make this shit happen. We only have one shot at this, and I got to do everything in my power to
Make the most of it.
to get it done. You know, at the end, you don't know when the end is, but at the end, I don't want to be able to regret anything. So I had to take my shot.
Good for you.
But where do you see Primo at in the next couple of years?
I see Primo as being Primo. Like it's an elite place. It's so much fun. What we do is we bring joy, memories. We make memories with your family and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like all your cousins that you're having the barbecues with, your birthday parties, your graduations. You subconsciously think back on that stuff, and you're like, oh, I remember that time in the bounce house when, you know, we were wrestling and, you know, or I slam dunked on you and shit like that. It's like
It's an experience.
We're the ones who supply that.
Right.
For me it's so funny, man. I'll be setting up a bounce house and the kids are foaming at the mouth watching me. They're watching me. I'm like, just give me 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Just give me 5 minutes. But they're so happy to have that. And it's a really cool experience to bring a lot of value to families to make that happen. And not only that, but on the parent side as well, right? Like if you all have kids, you know, kids could be bothersome to you as well. You need to step away from them at a certain point. It's nice for you to enjoy your company at the party because your kids are preoccupied in a bounce house and they're not running around causing a ruckus, you know, fighting each other or something like that. So you give them guys some entertainment. You guys can, you know, relax and have some fun too.
Probably never sees his kids. They're always jumping.
But
That's
as far as
awesome.
Primo in the next 5 years, man, it's just up. It's just growth. It's just, you know, what's the next thing? We're looking to incorporate photo booths. That's something that we don't have at the moment.
360?
So the 360s are okay. It's not what I want. I do a lot of research on these kinds of things before I invest in them. 360s are decent. It's a good entry point. It's not it's not the face of the photo booth that I want though. Okay. So I have some marketing tactics that I'll, you know, whip up and kind of attack this next season for like high school graduations and stuff like that. So you know, working on that kind of stuff behind the scenes, that fires me up as well. So there's a lot that you guys ever see like a foam machine? You know what I'm talking about with that? That's like
Foam machine?
Yeah, it's like a new upcoming thing. I think it would be killer for block parties. We just grabbed one. We just started testing it out. It's It's pretty cool. I got scared the first time we turned it on. I got scared because my entire property became bubbles. Like, I lost my kids. Like, I was like, yo, turn this off, turn it off. Like, this is too much.
So how do you get rid of it? You just gotta.
Yeah, it'll dissipate, hose it down. The wind takes some. The kids, they knock it all around and stuff like that. But the foam machines, that's something that we're going to start rolling out pretty soon as well. I mean, we have them now, but I think for block parties around here in Philadelphia, they're going to be
That's awesome.
very cool.
That's awesome.
What about which these guys don't know about, but Apex? That was something that you were pursuing, and that was for like men's health and mental health. So just a little brief backing on that.
Apex is cool. Something that you don't know right now, I'm actually contracted with my buddy Evan Elder. He's in the UFC. Shout out to Evan, great guy, super talented. Watch for his name, up and coming ranked fighter. Evan has a shirt live right now if you want to go check it out at apexapparelbrand.com. He's doing pretty well. Apex came about because all this pressure's on me now, right? I talked about how I gotta make this happen. I gotta get it done. We're constantly working. We're constantly thinking. I start to have like a mental breakdown. I got 2 kids. The weight of the world's on my shoulders. I'm a man, and I'm also self-aware. We talked about that earlier, right? Thank God I'm self-aware. That's the biggest blessing that God's ever given me. Because I knew that I wasn't in the right frame of mind. Something was going to happen with me. I wasn't, what I mean? Like, I wasn't where I wanted to be. My body was telling me, my mind was telling me that, yo, you need change. You need better habits. You need better productivity. You need to start to surround yourself with better people. Cut the shit. Slightly touched on the drugs and alcohol situation. So maybe I was dabbling a little bit too much into murky waters. So to keep my mind at ease, put my mind elsewhere, because I don't want to be in my mind. You get lost in your mind. You know what I mean? It's a scary place to be. I got really creative, and I started the Apex Apparel brand. Now, Apex to me was like, I got to channel my inner strength, and no matter what I'm doing. And I started pairing them with quotes that like resonate with myself. Like my favorite quote is, "Fate loves the fearless." Right? As long as you stand up for what it is that you believe in, fate is on your side. And like who's the scariest thing to like stand up to? And for me, that was like a gorilla. Like I would never want to, be in a room with a gorilla.
Right.
The thing will rip me apart. But fate's on my side. So as long as I stay fearless, nothing can touch me. And I had to carry that mentality to get me through like some of the darker times in my life. And I really wanted to bring it to other people's perspective as well. Because if I was feeling this way, I know a lot of people that are feeling this way, and they were turning to bad habits. And I was going to funerals left and right. And I'm trying to create a community now where, hey, look, I'm going through this, but this situation happened. All right, how can I apply the Apex mentality to my situation and what's going on? And like we had like the peregrine falcon, the fastest animal in the world. The quote with that one is "Take the dive." We could be sitting here talking about everything that we're gonna do left and right. Like when this happens, I'm gonna start this and. Etc. Take the dive. Go.
Right,
go.
do
You
it.
got to go, and you got to attack it with speed, and you got to, precision, and you got to get after it. So it's kill or be killed kind of stuff.
Right.
If I could enlighten somebody, inspire somebody to be with me, and to push each other, I push you, you level up. You push me, I level up. You look back, we're at the top of the world. We're looking good.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So you're building like a community with that. Like have people like reached out to you and thanked you or brought interest to it or ideas to it? And
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. So I mean, it kind of resonates. I didn't want it to go down this path, but a lot of it is like with resistance. It resonates with fitness. So I'm not like a crazy fitness person, but I like to run. So I would bring that into my runs. People we did a 100-mile challenge. And we would really push each other. I would run I ran like 10. My buddy said, I remember, shout out to my buddy Nicholas. He texted me, right? He's like, yo, you motivated me. He's like, that was the craziest run I ever had. It took me 10 minutes to run a mile. And I'm like, all right. I sent him a screenshot really quick. I was like, I'm on mile 10 right now. You know what I mean? Like, keep going. Like, you don't stop at 1 mile. Like, push yourself to the limit. We're getting after it. About 20 minutes goes by. He sends me another text. All right, fuck it. I just ran 2 more. You know what I mean? Like, just and I got him through that.
It's good, yeah.
And you know what I mean? And like, I knew that I wasn't stopping at 10, but I needed to push for another 3. So all of a sudden now I'm at the 13. I'm at a half marathon. I'm like, this shit's awesome. And I dedicated those miles. If you remember that the 13 soldiers who were bombed a few years ago.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I dedicated those miles. I ran 13 for the fallen, and I put those miles towards them because they're putting their lives on the line. So it's time for us to start acting, like take action in our life because they don't get a life anymore.
Yeah, right.
We can do hard things.
Sure.
And we started building that community, and it's been great. It's been a great time. Pushing one another. All of a sudden, that day I ran 13. I was proud. I was sitting on the top of the leaderboard. I was number 1. I woke up the next morning. This motherfucker ran 8 miles after already running 10. And I'm like, damn.
Is there like an app or something?
We were using the Under Armour app, Map My Run.
Okay.
And we started like a little group in there. We threw it up on Facebook. Had a little bit of accountability. I think like maybe close to 200 people joined the challenge. Now, some people didn't do the full 100, but yo, you fell short at 25 miles. That's 25 fucking miles. Congratulations.
You probably wouldn't have ran that if you didn't.
If somebody didn't push you to do that. So we started doing that, and there's tiers to it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm happy to have people who walk the mile.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You know what I mean? Like it's something that
I
God's
probably would have
inspiring.
walked it.
Yeah. You would have drove it.
Yeah. You can ride my bike. Don't worry.
That's funny. It's interesting how everything comes full circle, though. And when you just keep on working towards your goals, how you can just keep on accomplishing.
Yeah, one step
them.
at a time. 1 foot in front of the other. I'll talk back on my kids too. So me in the middle of doing all this, I'm showing my kids resilience. I'm showing my kids.
How old are they?
My son right now, he's 6. My daughter is 5.
6 and 5. Okay.
So we're talking about 2-3 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
2 and 3. They're babies.
I follow Jack on Instagram, dude. He's always posting his son in the gym, running. Like his kid's 6 years old, and he's always
he gets to see this stuff. He grows up in this mentality. That's what I did it for. I didn't do this shit for me. None of this is ever for me. It's what value I can bring to somebody else. Now the closest person to me is my family. Don't get me wrong. I'm trying to bring that as much value as possible to them. But if you guys can resonate with me as well, I'm all for it. Like we're sponges, you know what I mean? Like take my wisdom and my beliefs and my hard work and implement it in yourselves too.
Yeah. Well, even like we were talking about earlier off camera, like just showing them different parts of the world too.
Yeah.
Like, I follow you on Instagram. I seen y'all just came from Europe. It was like beautiful. You showing them different parts of the world other than what's in this country. You know what I'm saying?
There's different ways to do things.
Yeah.
That was a big part of it.
Yeah.
I don't want them or the youth in general. Right? It doesn't start with like little kids. You can change your mindset at any time. You go over to Europe, they do shit different.
Right.
Everything's different over there. The currencies are different. The plumbing is different. The electricity is different.
The food.
The food is different. The method
Look at
of
little Bob
cooking.
that said you said food. He's like,
No,
Yeah.
bro. They don't
Bills
got
is booking
big
tickets.
plates over there, bro.
got big
So
plates.
small portions. We would die over there, Frankie.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay over here for a little
But
bit.
it's cheap. You can get 2. Don't worry. They're cheap.
All right.
But you know what you've done, like if you think about like, as your parents didn't have that extra income to be able to go to Europe, like you've created a nice future and an
Yeah,
opportunity to
opportunity.
be able to do this stuff for your
My
family.
parents sacrificed and dedicated a lot for me to have the chance
to go to Catholic school, maybe.
Yeah,
Like, stuff like
it
that.
costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money, and I was happy to know at a younger age that I appreciated that. You know what I mean? Like I was like, damn, let me help out with this tuition. Let me go get a job. How about that?
Yeah.
So we're just running up on some time here, 44 minutes. But Lois said the next 5 years for Primo parties. And I'm just thinking of like, are you going to stay in the medical field? Are you going to go all on entrepreneurship? Is your business owner operated? Are you still heavily involved in the business? Like, what's the next 5 years for you look like?
Next 5 years for myself and Primo Parties, my family,
Yep.
Studio 1123, it looks like the future is whatever I want it to be. Like fate is in my hands now, right? If I ask for the work, it's coming. And you got to be willing to do the work, or else it all crumbles. You know what I mean? Don't ask, and stuff starts coming in, and you're like, oh, this is too much, this and that. So everything leading up to this point has prepared me to take it to the next step. The next step for me is actually to become more involved with myself, my family, and my time. That is rich to me. That's what I'm building. I'm building time for my family. And that.
So you want to minimize the physical or labor or time-consuming work, try to delegate it, and then buy your time back to spend with your family?
Yeah, in a way. But I also do realize as well is that the work never goes away. There's always work to be done, no matter what level that you're at. When was the last time you picked up a paintbrush?
Probably like upstairs 2 years ago.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's. So there's going to be work to be done, right?
It's different.
It's not an endless supply of things, but I'm excited to learn new things, and whatever comes across my plate, the opportunities, the networking, the events that I go to, that kind of stuff. It's just we'll see what the future holds, but maintaining it now, cherishing it now, and enjoying it. You got to stop and smell the roses. You know what I mean?
It's great. It's interesting that you are able to pick up on that at 32. You're an old soul for 32 years old. I know a lot of 32-year-olds, not too many because I'm a little bit older now, but to have that mindset.
Even
that
when
have
you
now
were
is good.
32 or people you grew up with at that age were 32.
Yeah, I don't think I was just so assumed. Yeah, I was so assumed in like everything I did work-wise and just
I feel like a lot of people followed a typical path of work a 9 to 5 and go to the bar on your free time or go to shoot darts or whatever it is. But I think like a big takeaway from your podcast especially is like, because I know you, I know the way you think, I know the way you're always innovating, you're always thinking outside the box. But I learned more about you as far as like I think resilience and mindset. Like your mindset's different, and just to overcome, like you could have just been a surgeon, helper, whatever, and made a good living, but pushing for more for yourself and your family, and knowing it's just not about finances either. Like, I think that's huge.
it's
A huge takeaway.
It is what it is when it comes to money. You know what I mean? Like money comes, money goes. You spend it, you earn it. As long as you're perpetuating it. You know what I mean? And I understood that at an early age. So.
Yeah, your buddy's graffitiing all over the.
I made that work, right? Yeah, I made that work. So
Now you're building
Frank, I give you a tip. That's what you do.
You're building yourself, and you're building the life you want rather than just chasing anything. You're like building on top of stuff rather than just continuously on a hamster wheel or whatever.
I like to. I call it piggyback. I don't know if there's like an actual word for this or like
or
a
stack.
Like a stack. I like to stack on things like. Primo is a party rental company. We do bounce houses. If you call me for a bounce house, I know that kids are going to be there, right? And it's where we live is seasonal, so it's most likely hot outside. So I got to go deliver this bounce house to kids. Kids are hot. They're going to want something to cool down. So I might as well just start an ice cream truck and stay at the party and serve them ice cream. Now, me being a parent, I got to deal with these kids. I'm going to get my kids the ice cream because my kids work hard and they deserve it. It's hot out. I got to deal with them. I want an iced coffee too. So I'm going to sell ice cream and iced coffee. So we call it coffee and cones. And then
Did you start that already?
When the whole event is over, I'm going to have to go wrap up the bounce house and get going.
Did you start
It's
that?
in the works.
Oh,
Yeah.
write that down.
Yeah, it's in the works now. But when I say it's in the works, you might not hear from that again for 2 years. You know what I mean? Life happens, things get in the way, this and that.
You're on your time.
Yeah, but I'm on. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like when I want to pop it up, boom, it's up. I got trucks, I got working vehicles, I got generators. I can.
It's not too hard to get coffee and stuff
that could
anyway,
that could be tomorrow if I wanted to.
So what advice would you give to to someone listening to the podcast, if you can give some advice to someone that's teetering whether or not they stick out that day job or take a shot, what would you tell them? And
Can we do two pieces of advice? I'm sorry.
Sure.
One for like mental health, like people that are dealing with mental health issues, because this is a different audience we're trying to hit too, and then also like maybe like entrepreneurial. Too,
I got two perfect words for you. I couldn't sum it up any better. To touch on the first one is a bit of advice. If you're on the fence of doing something, you gotta be willing. You have to be willing to do something because you don't know what that evolves into next. Now, I'm going to use a quick example that doesn't pertain to me, so to say, but just off the top of my head. Imagine you were willing to cut grass, right? You went to your neighbor, you're like, yo, I'm going to knock on your door, cut this grass. And the neighbor's like, all right, yeah, here's $20. Oh, by the way, do you think that you can, pave the backyard with some rocks and do like a little landscape flower bed for me? I'll give you $200. You would have never got that $200 job and become a paver if you didn't cut the grass.
Right.
You got to be willing to go after and get work. If you're willing to do the work, it will come. And it's the same thing as if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to be willing to do it. And to touch on the mental health aspect, one of the things I cannot stress this enough, it's mega important. You got to be honest. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest with your emotions. You got to be honest with your partner. You got to be vulnerable. Because during that whole Apex saga that I went through, I was super vulnerable. Like I reached out to all my friends and I let them know. And I was like, dude, I'm on edge right now. Like, I'm not feeling well. This shit ain't cool. Like, I don't know what to do. And none of them had an answer for me. Because what were they supposed to do? You know what I mean? But they were there for me. They you know what I mean? I called on my community and I said, yo, guys, I need a helping hand here. I'm having a tough time. And they came up the bat for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I stuck around, and you got to hang around because you don't know what the future holds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Can always turn around for you. Can always turn around.
yeah.
It will too if you stick with it. Sorry, Jack, we're just running up on like an hour right now.
Yeah.
Awesome conversation. Do you have anything, Lil? Any questions?
Since
Great.
we giving advice, you give advice to Frankie on the plastic surgery thing. No, I'm just playing.
That was very informative, man. Thanks for your story.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.